Hello, everyone. This is Peyton with the Apple Box Chronicles, and we have a really special, unique episode for you this week. I got a chance to sit down with screenwriter, actor, and host of the Screenplay Lab, Jeff Barker, to talk about Obsession. He worked as a script consultant on the film. He has a small cameo in the film, as well as being responsible for writing the Hansel and Gretel monologue, which I'm sure we all remember as being one of the most memorable moments in the movie, as well as being the father of writer-director Curry Barker. So it was a fantastic conversation. We had a great time discussing the themes and the characters of Obsession, really getting into it. And so that is, of course, a spoiler warning. If you have not seen Obsession yet, what are you doing? Go see it. But please come back and listen to this episode once you have. And be sure to check out the Screenplay Lab. I will leave all of Jeff's links in the description wherever you are watching or listening to this. And please enjoy this conversation. It was a ton of fun. Well, hello. Nice to meet you,
Hey,
Jeff.
yeah, nice to meet you.
Thank you for reaching out. I really
Yeah, I've been
appreciate
doing
it.
all these podcast interviews. You're the one I reached out to because your videos keep popping up, and I'm like, this guy knows his stuff. Like, were you on set? Did I miss you somewhere?
No, I mean, according to a lot of people, I don't know what I'm talking about. That's what's so
Yeah.
interesting.
Well, you
Uh,
are wrong about a lot of stuff, but it's still like an interesting take. Like it
right.
makes sense. You put it all together, and
Right. Well, of course, I think with a film like this that's so intentionally ambiguous and there's so
mhm.
many things that are left up for interpretation. I mean, I think it's a joy to be like technically wrong, but to try to find meaning anyway.
Oh
Like,
yeah, I
yeah,
think
there are
it's so
certain
cool.
moments, certain lines where I'm like, this definitely maybe wasn't intentional, but and then I find out it wasn't, right? But then it's like it still kind of connects together. And then there's certain theories where I'm like, I really don't agree with this, but I think it's so fun to think about
Yeah.
for just a few minutes and
Right.
like so many different things. So I'm excited to kind of
Yeah.
go into that stuff
Well,
with
it's
you.
like when you create art, you're putting your heart and soul into it. You're creating this thing, and then you have to like a baby, you have to put it out into the world, and now it's not yours anymore. And people are interpreting it through their own specific lens of their personal experiences, their understanding of life, and they can see things in a way that you as a creator didn't even see. And so it's really cool to see all that.
Right. I
All,
said, I always say like when you go into the movie theater, you take your life with you, everything you've been through, and it kind of colors the experience in a certain way. I think we all have something unique to add in that way.
Absolutely. I had this fun conversation with this one lady online. She had this theory that Bear had murdered the cat to try to get sympathy with Nikki,
I've seen that.
and I thought I should have just stayed out of it, but I commented and said that is so cool that you thought of that like that. I never even thought of that angle before. That's so interesting. That's not what happened, but that's really cool. And she told me I needed to go back and watch the movie again. I didn't know what I was talking about.
That's so funny. Um, yeah, there are certain things like that. There's like the one that I posted about because I just thought it was so fun. Like at first I didn't take it seriously because I got a bunch of comments saying it, but that Nikki is possessed by the cat, that like it's Sandy's
Oh,
spirit in Nikki, and I was like, that doesn't make sense to me. I don't know. But then I saw someone like really break it down and they were admitting like they were like, this I know is probably not the intention, but with art, it's like I'm
yeah,
this kind of makes the movie and it contributes to the themes in a way that's interesting to me. So that's why I like the
yeah.
theory. And so I was like, that's fair. So I made when I read the script that's going around, I kind of found more stuff in there, and I found stuff in the movie that they didn't mention. So I was like, let's make a post, let's talk about it, let's entertain this for a few minutes. And I kind of made it very clear. I was like, I don't buy this, but it's cool to talk about. And then
Yeah,
everyone in the comments is like, this is stupid, and I'm like, well, but we're just having fun here,
yeah.
Like I also agree that it's not
It's so
right, but
fun.
yeah.
Yeah, I saw one today where someone was saying that they believe the phone call that Bear was having with Ian before Nikki came back in her red dress, and said, do you have do you have feelings for me? I have feelings for you. That was not actually Ian on the phone. That was like Nikki or the underground squad doing that because it was the same sort of tone as when Curry was on the phone as the call center.
Interesting. Yeah,
And
people are drawing all sorts of connections
yeah,
like that. That
yeah,
reminds me of like Terminator, the way the Terminator will like make a different voice on the phone and trick people.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. I mean, who knows? Could be.
There's been so many things like that. How do you think, I mean, do you think that that was something that you guys anticipated working on the movie? Like, were you like, everyone's gonna theorize this like
Uh,
crazy, and there's gonna be a lot of different takes? And was that like a very, uh, I guess, intentional goal?
no, we didn't really think about that much because we were just like Curry just wanted to put out a movie that really resonated with people and like hit on the current cultural topics and had people thinking and talking. But as filmmakers, it's always been important to us, and especially Curry, to not hold the hand of the viewer, like allow people to have some stake in figuring things out on their own and discovering things and not spoon feeding everything. And so things are purposefully left vague or just like you're on a need to know basis and you don't really need to know that sort of thing. In fact, we said that to each other a lot, like this is something people don't have to know, so let's cut it. We don't need to know that. And but when you do that, I think what we didn't maybe realize all the way was that people will just fill in the blanks, and that's been a really cool experience. So it's not like it was made of some sort of puzzle box where like did this happen or that happen, but more of just like when you leave all these gaps, it's easy for people to come in and fill them in.
Yeah, and I do think that that is a reason that it resonates so much and that people are having so much fun with it. I mean, definitely myself included. Like, this is really, it feels like the stars aligned in a certain way where I get this passionate into movies. Like, I'm known for analyzing this other movie called Trap by M. Night Shyamalan that came out like 2 years ago.
Yeah, cool. I
I
haven't
break
seen that yet. I want to.
Yeah, I've made like 30 videos on that, and
Oh, okay.
it's like my favorite movie. This is like a painting of the protagonist that my girlfriend
Oh,
made for me for my birthday. So it's something that I'm really into, and everybody knows. They're like, Peyton likes that movie. But the thing is, like, half the population kind of thinks that movie is terrible, and that's okay. But when I'm talking about that movie with such conviction and kind of going into all the details, it kind of feels like some people, it becomes an argument of like, but this movie's not good, so you shouldn't even be analyzing it. And I'm like, well, that's not really the point.
yeah.
It becomes this conversation of, is the movie good or not? And
Mm,
we kind of lose like the ideas that the movie's trying to convey and trying to get into that. It's like, even if you don't like the movie, I think you should always seek out to see what it's trying to do and what it's trying to talk about.
yeah.
But with Obsession, it's like I feel that similar drive, that similar passion to make videos and analyze the movie, but it feels like the stars have aligned where it's like that's actually what people want to do right now. That's what people want to see. And so it's been really cool to like see everyone engaging with it. It's like it's almost like a wish come true for me to have so many people curious about a movie that I'm curious about. And so
Cool.
that's why I think this movie is resonating with so many people, is those kind of gaps. Like, I've seen theories that Curry's character on the other side of the phone is like the devil and all sorts of
Mm,
things. Um, but yeah, I mean, I have a few questions about you
sure.
personally, if you want. I wanted to know what kind of movies you and Curry and the rest of your family grew up watching, and maybe was there a horror movie that was significant for you, or even for Curry that you remember experiencing with him?
Yeah, well, I mean, Curry's made it very public that Hereditary had a huge impact on him and me too. It was, you know, the thing that I wish Curry wouldn't say because isn't true when he talks about it is Ari Aster, who we both adore. I mean, he didn't invent that type of, horror movie. I think Hereditary did it so well that it was forced into modern relevance. But there have been lots of other movies that were drama first, horror second, as opposed to just being, driven by the horror. But that's what made Hereditary so unique. I mean, in fact, Ari Aster originally wrote the screenplay as just a drama with no horror in it, and that's why I think it works like that. It was called The Mourning Family. It was the original screenplay,
Oh, interesting.
Mourning, and it was pretty much the same story about a family who was dealing with the grief of the death of the mother, and I'm not sure if the daughter had died yet, but she certainly didn't die that way brutally with her head hanging out the window. But you can only go so far with drama. I love dramas. In fact, when I read, I mostly read literary fiction, which the equivalent to that in film is like the straight drama. And I do love a good drama. I mean, give me a you know, oh, Train Dreams was one that I loved. Like, it's probably one of
Yeah.
my favorite show movies. Um, so give me one of those any day, and I'll go for it. But I really appreciate horror as a vehicle to be able to really dig deep into the human condition. And coming from a psychology background, I care a lot about trauma and grief and dealing with those things, putting a mirror up to yourself and being forced to analyze things about yourself that you may not want to see. And horror is a good vehicle for that because you're locked in, it forces you to do it.
Yeah, definitely. I think Curry has even said this that, with all of the things that are left ambiguous in Obsession, the One Wish Willow at the center of it, like being this device that is, this object that is magical and it actually grants wishes. If that really existed and the film takes place in modern day, pretty much, it would be crazy. Like, I think Curry said something like there would be like dragons outside. Like, it would
Yeah.
not be this isolated thing. But the movie operates kind of like this Twilight Zone,
Hmm.
magical realism tale. So it's very contained to these characters and what they're going through. And so for me, I think what's more important than a movie being like working on all levels of logic, where it's like, oh, that, if you like, I love the hospital scene, for example. And in the script, it's a really great, line that he put in there where it says,
Hmm.
the nurse won't admit Nikki because of the principle of informed consent. It really
Yeah.
hits on the themes. But I also like how in that movie, it kind of doesn't really show you what's exactly going on. Like, some people are confused because there's no dialogue in that part when he's taking her to the hospital. But I think it works because it's like as soon as you introduce things like hospitals and police and like they're investigating what happened to Nikki and they're like don't know what happened with her injury and it becomes all crazy, like then it would kind of get too big, I think.
Hmm.
And then you
Yeah.
lose,
It loses. Yeah. Well, I think the beauty of it is the narrow focus. It's
yes.
through these four characters' POV. You only know what they know. And if you expand the world beyond that, then you have all these loose ends. It just sort of gets fuzzy for sure.
Right. And I think what's most important about it is emotional truth of the storytelling, like what these characters are going through. I mean, I have friends who have been in, codependent relationship dynamics before that felt so seen by Nikki in the movie.
Mhm.
They were like, this feels like you're kind of taken over by something that's not you.
Yeah.
And then, suddenly that person's out of your life and you like wake up. Like those experiences are, I think, resonating with people as well when it's less about making sure everything functions realistically on terms of the magic and everything that's going on, but just making sure the emotions feel real and uh you know maybe not all the time relatable but in terms of what some of these characters do, but in terms of like we've known people like this, we've seen things like this, and if you take the magic out of it, you still kind of have the horror. It's just the magic just kind of illuminates the real horrors that are being
Mhm.
explored, that
Yeah.
exist psychologically.
Yeah, I think the One Wish Willow is such a interesting device for two reasons. One, the name alone explains exactly what it is. You don't have to have any backstory or lore. It is a One Wish Willow. And how many wishes do you get? One from the One Wish Willow. And also, I don't really think that it is a plot hole. I think that, if someone makes a wish and they wished for dinosaurs or dragons or whatever, which would be a crazy thing to wish for, that's probably in their reality that happens, but maybe not for everyone else, you know.
Right. Maybe the One Wish Willow knows that that would disrupt the rest of the world too much, so it
Yeah,
has
it's
to
one of
move
those
them.
billions of splits of, where
Yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it. Because even, Ian at the end wishes for $1 billion, but of course the other characters can see the $1 billion, but
yeah.
one guy having $1 billion might not break the timeline in that
Um,
way, you know?
and plus he did it in the inside. Bear's reality as far as he was asking him, and the consequence of him doing that was almost to like make fun of him, like, okay, whatever, bro, and breaks it.
Yeah, yeah, it's still all through Bear's perspective.
Yeah.
Those two characters are interesting to me because I feel like there's almost an arc that they go on where every scene that those two exchange by themselves, they are in some way deceiving or lying to one another. Like from
Yeah.
the very beginning, Ian is hiding something. He's kind of, I perceive it as like he's kind of sabotaging Bear a little bit, telling him to call her Freaky Nikki. And then in the next scenes that they're discussing what's happening after the first night, and Bear's not really fully honest about the one with Willow. He doesn't tell him
Mm.
about the cat memorial in the morning. Like there's
Yeah.
details he leaves out and he kind of makes it look like Nikki's the crazy one. And
Mm.
then, that kind of continues throughout the whole movie. I love the scene when they're in the car because it's shot from the back seat and you can only see half of their faces at any
Yeah.
given time. And it's like they're speaking in half truths. And I thought that was like a really
Yeah.
cool. I don't know if that was like why they shot it like that, but I think it's a really cool
Oh, I
visual.
believe it is. I don't know if they thought about the term half truths, but it was like it wanted to appear like you're only getting one perspective at a time, half the face, half lit, and you're removed from the conversation. You're in the almost, you're like a casual observer as well. You're taken back
Right, because you
uh,
know more. I feel like the movie does a
because
great
we
job
know
of,
more. Yeah.
letting you know things up front. You know the full uncomfortable truth of it, and then you're watching the characters kind of deny it, reject it, be dishonest with each other, and that's part of the discomfort of the movie. But by the end, it feels like Bear and Ian have almost a moment where you see that arc come to a head where Bear's about to leave the house and he's like, okay, don't come to my house. I'm going to fix this. Starts to run away and Ian's like, no, stop. You're going to tell me this right now. You're going to tell me what's
Mhm.
going on.
That's right.
So it feels like the story kind of, Ian kind of stops the momentum to really be like, you need to finally be honest with me. And then, of course, Bear is honest with him, but then he kind of, I think, in my view, he kind of screws it up by saying, and then you can be with Nikki.
Yeah.
And
Because
then
then
it's
his
like,
defenses go back up, and he's like, "Oh, that's what this is all about."
right, exactly.
Yeah.
And it really does not do him any favors in that situation.
Yeah. Well,
And I
the fact
think,
they're both horrible people. I
yeah.
mean, I mean,
Yeah.
every person is three dimensional. There are good qualities to everybody. Nobody's one thing. Nobody's just all bad or all good. But morally, they're both, compromised people who are very selfish and only looking out for themselves. And really, no one's friends with anybody. I mean, they're not a true friend of each other. Uh, uh, Sarah's not a true friend to Nikki, or she wouldn't be texting her new boyfriend at 2 in the morning, no matter how crazy things had gotten. And at the same time, Nikki, she's probably the one who's most redeemable of everyone, like original Nikki.
Hmm.
But she, could be seen that she's also, likes the fact that everybody sort of thinks she's the cool girl and adores her, and she probably likes the fact. Well, in fact, you have to look at it that way. If the question that always comes up is, did Nikki actually like Bear? So there's only two outcomes there. One is that she did, because she says, when I like someone, no one will know it, which is part of that cool girl persona. But she has that micro expression when he says that he doesn't like her, where she looks disappointed for a second. That could be interpreted as that she actually did like him, and she's just disappointed that he didn't shoot his shot, that he wasn't man enough to step up and admit it. Or it could be that she's disappointed that she's afraid he's no longer going to adore her and put her on a pedestal. But either way, she's disappointed for a half second. So it has to be one of those two.
I do think there's a slightly more, I think there might be a third option,
Okay, let's hear it. What's the third one?
which is that she may not like him back, but she knows he does. She can tell, and
Mm.
she's disappointed that he's lying. She's like, you're not being honest with me, and that
Mhm.
upsets me because I thought we had like a real
Oh yeah,
bond as
sure.
friends, you
No,
know?
that's a good point. And she just wants to get it out there, and let's talk about the truth and
Yeah,
quit
because
quit.
I do think that that's important. A huge theme of the movie is these guys are all dishonest with each other in one way or another.
Oh yeah.
And I think even in my opinion, Bear's perspective of Nikki at the beginning of the movie is not healthy because it's like you see he's in the dark looking at pictures of her, and when she calls him, he gets up and then he turns the light on. It's like
Mhm.
she's the only thing driving him to even move or do anything anymore. And I think that's something that he might, he's obsessed, but he might confuse
Mhm.
that for being in love with her or whatever he wants to call it. And I think if he had just had that conversation, whether she likes him back or not, it's important to open up that conversation and be honest about how he feels because I think what Sarah says later about Nikki, because of course she doesn't know the full situation, when she says, you know, Nikki's leaning on you. It's not fair. It's she needs to, get some help and deal with what she's going through and not
Mhm.
put it on you. I think that's what Bear needed to kind of hear at the beginning of the movie, and nobody was able to tell him that because he never really expressed it.
Mhm.
He kind of let that stuff exist behind closed doors and made it all about Nikki instead.
Yeah, and he's in love with the idea of Nikki
Hmm.
and how she makes him feel about himself, that he's important, that he's wanted, that he's significant.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's part of why he even he gets some of that, when she's being trapped, and he doesn't really want to give it up. He knows it's not right, but at some point he's gone too far, and he doesn't want to give that up.
Yeah. And I think Sarah is an interesting character because you said, she shouldn't be texting Bear at 2 in the morning, regardless of what's going on. And I think that's true. But I do think her knowledge of the situation is interesting to think about because I think of the scene at the trivia bar when they're all at the table and you hear, and in the script it's a little different. The I guess it's an earlier draft that people have been reading, where Sarah's a little more, I guess, she has a little more attitude towards Nikki. Nikki goes to the bathroom and she says, "Oh, nobody wants to read her dumb novel." In the movie, I don't think that's the case. I see it as like they're all at the table. Nikki and Sarah are talking about some work issue. They're saying, if you're working on your book on the clock, my dad doesn't like that. He's complaining about you, and they're having this open discussion about
Yeah.
it. And at the end, they come to a swift understanding. They tell each other they love each other, and it's all good. And at the same time, on the other angle of the table, you have Bear and Ian silently, bickering over like, when am I going to ask Nikki out? And they're not paying attention. And so I think just that little microcosm, just those two, angles at the table happening at the same time, it kind of shows it's like where did here's characters like trying to scheme and plan a discussion when with their friend, and then here's characters just doing the uncomfortable thing and opening up and talking about an issue. And so I think Nikki and Sarah have this interesting bond that I perceived. I mean, when I saw the movie, I kind of perceived that they had a good friendship and it was compromised by the wish because Sarah didn't know what was going on, and she kind of perceives Nikki as more the bad guy because I think that day she had had a talk with her. She was like, I kind of like Bear. And she was like, I view Bear as a brother, supposedly. Ian, of course, plants the seed that Sarah's lying about that, maybe. But I personally didn't interpret that she was. But, it's one of those things we'll never know.
Yeah, right.
Um, but I think in this case, it's like imagine you tell your friend, I like this guy. She's like, yeah, he's like a brother to me. And then the next day they're all over each other.
Yeah, right.
They're dating. And then you look at the party scene with Sarah and you have Nikki standing up and saying, everybody will die before they know how
Yeah,
I feel about Bear. It almost feels from Sarah's perspective like Nikki is just rubbing it in. Like she
yeah,
is just kind of like,
right.
messing with her. And so I think that's why Sarah starts to feel wronged in the
Oh
situation
yeah, for
and starts
sure.
to feel like Nikki's playing some game. And it's so sad to me to think about the fact that Sarah dies before she ever knows
Mhm.
the truth of what was going on and who really was to blame.
Yeah,
It's
that
super
is
sad.
that's brutal. That's
Yeah.
brutal, and that's what Curry wanted. He wanted his movie to be ruthless, brutal, pull no punches. That's why he had the original ending, because in his mind that would, until he discovered the possibilities of a new ending. In his mind, that was the most brutal. Just like, nothing but bodies, and no hope, and just this is horrible. Uh, and Yeah, and but that is true. Sarah's the first to go, and even people who can kind of see it coming, I think just the brutality of it is just like it just doesn't stop and doesn't stop, and it's like, oh my God, this is they're going there.
Yeah. So I'm wondering for you, because of that scene, how do you interpret the One Wish Willow as a device? Do you think the One Wish Willow has any? Because I know Curry said that the One Wish Willow is not cursed, the wish is cursed, and I've always
Mhm,
subscribed to that belief as well.
mhm.
Do you think that the One Wish Willow is neutral and it just grants the wish, and everything bad that happens is due to the content of the wish, or do you more see it as like there is some kind of I guess malice to it, like when she runs up and kills Sarah in that way. I kind of saw it as because Sarah was starting to love Bear and that was starting to strengthen. It's almost like the wish has this kind of Matrix-like view over the world, and it says, okay, the wish has to be true, it has to be granted in reality.
Mhm.
So if Sarah's starting to love Bear, Sarah is now a threat to the wish being true. So then that compels Nikki to go
Mhm.
and take her out. And what do you think about that?
I think I think you're close. I think it's really more just the entity, its only purpose, and really the entity's a victim too. Like whatever it's
Absolutely.
possessing Nikki, really, it's a shame, sad that this entity has been birthed, whether it's the first time or the thousandth time for in this existence. This is birthed into this body to forced to serve and love Bear, who's not caring for her or it properly, against its will too. So its autonomy has been taken. But I think that this entity saw a threat to not getting what it wanted or what it had been, uh, you know, programmed or coordinated to have to get, and so it was taking out the threat. Not so much that
Right.
the wish was, trying to just wreak havoc or whatever to try to keep the mission going.
Right,
But
right,
I definitely subscribe to the idea that the One Wish Willow is neutral. It can be for good. You have to be smart. You have to be smarter than whatever's running the show. And maybe it's a little tricky, but maybe it's not malicious. Just
yeah,
like that goes all the way back to our classic understanding of genies. It's always like rub the lamp, but you better word it right, or else you're
yeah,
going to get tricked. So, I think if there were follow up IP to this, whether it be sequels or anthology series or whatever, it would be really fun to explore this idea of everything going right and everybody making a wish and it all works out happily ever
right.
after. I think
There's
you have
just
to work that in very carefully where it's actually a surprise and like,
yeah, it's kind of ripe for social commentary in that way. There's so many different things that you could do with this kind of story. Speaking of the genies, you actually have the cameo in the trivia bar where you play the trivia host,
yeah,
Barker's Pub. It makes sense.
right.
I'm wondering where was that filmed? Like the Barker's Pub. Do you know where
Oh
the
yeah, yeah, I was there. I was there
yeah.
for that. That was at oh, I forget the name of it. It was a place that I've been there a couple times before with the boys and their friends. It was kind of like one of their local hangouts. It was in Burbank, I think. It was close to the house, and it was just a cool spot. And they Curry and Cooper had a deal with that place where they had shot some of their, paid to go in and shoot some of their That's About Idea stuff there. They have a lot of skits that are like them as waiters or being waited on, whatever. And that was usually
Yeah.
the place where it happened. Not always, but a lot of times they'd go in and rent the place out and shoot 5 or 6 sketches at a time that they had written and then put them out slowly over time. Um, yeah, so and I think it's closed now though.
Oh,
This,
really?
yeah, it's really funny because this movie is sort of cursed in the fact that so many of the places that we shot at don't exist anymore. The
They
record
live on and
store.
they live on an obsession.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah. The record store, which has been around for forever in the valley there, that's the where Wayne's World was shot. It was a really cool place. They closed. Um, I've heard that this bar that you're talking about, Barker's Pub, closed. The house, the party scene, the house where that was shot, that one burned down during the fires.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Now, there's a fourth too. I'm trying to remember what because there's four places that don't exist anymore. What could that be? It's not the restaurant where Nikki says no, no, no. That because I just ate there last time I was in town.
Oh, cool.
Little
What
Tony's. Little
Little
Tony.
Tony's? Okay, I gotta go. I gotta go eat there. I
Yeah, you could go
noticed.
and sit in that booth. Yeah,
I
it's a really popular restaurant.
I did notice that in is there I don't know if you know this or not. This also is a question for that I would love to one day ask Blair, the costume designer, because I noticed that a lot of the association with green and bear in the movie, the color green, and I
Mhm.
know that the shop where he buys the one Wish Willow is called the Green Man, but I think that's
Mhm.
real.
That's real. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a real place. Yeah.
But it's a cool coincidence if that. And the booth that they're sitting in Little Tony's is like when you look at the shot of him and Nikki in the booth, there's the glass behind them, the stained glass, and
Mhm.
right in his head is a green piece of stained glass surrounded by I think it's like orange or something.
Mhm.
And then on Nikki's side it's all orange. And I think it's interesting to show like what there's almost like a hollowness to the Nikki that he's sitting there with because it's
Yeah.
like Nikki is gone and he's the
Yeah.
green kind of resembles him. I've always kind of just like noticed that.
Yeah.
I wonder
I'd
if
say
that
most
was
of that's
why.
not by mistake. I think I could be wrong, but I think that what's behind Nikki in the back, they put that up temporarily, the
Oh,
checkered.
okay, cool.
But everything else, the booth color, the fabric color is authentic. Well, Blair, Blair is amazing, and she
Oh yeah.
did come to Curry with every scene and every outfit of like with her own theories of like, I think this is why Nikki would dress this way. This is why Bear would dress this way. And as a director, you have to answer 1,000 questions from every department, and um, so it's not uncommon. But for a small movie like this, I mean, she was working at a high pro level, and I mean, she'll be able to work and do this on any projects going forward. It's just one of those things. The cinematography, the sound design, the music that was composed, like it just all came together in this perfect storm of really excellent quality. Um,
Yeah,
the special
she's
effects, all of it.
everyone is amazing. Luke, the props master, amazing work. Blair, amazing work. I got to talk
Vivian,
to Luke a
Vivian,
little bit.
yeah, Vivian, who did the set design, and awesome. I mean, just yeah, you're right. I mean, it's unreal. Well, here's the thing: it's like this is how you make a major motion picture that's number one at the box office on a $750,000 budget. Because everybody in Hollywood right now is trying to figure out how to do that tomorrow. The answer is talent. You have to have pro level quality talent and and they have to be willing to do it for cheap. And Curry and Cooper have assembled their team of people over the years of just having their little creative community that grew and grew, and people knew people who knew people, and people would come in and they wouldn't fit because they weren't really willing to work hard enough, or they didn't have, they wanted to play around and be silly. They'd be shown the door politely, and then other people would come in. And so what's left now is like the cream of the crop of his little universe. And then with the head of that, the top of that being Haley Johnson, who was the producer. And if there were people they didn't have and spots missing, she'd go find them, bring them in, and decide if they fit in with that group. So the talent level for the movie is way above the $750,000 budget, but there's enough talent in LA and other places to do that if you can assemble your team. It's like
Yeah.
Avengers, you got to mount up.
Yeah, I mean, getting together the right, I think that is a phenomenal talent in and of itself, is the ability to perceive talent and to say, this is what you would excel at, and this is why you would be great for this project. I think having the eye for that is in and of itself a very crucial talent for filmmaking.
Yeah.
And everybody did amazing. And I do want to ask you one more question about your cameo because
Okay.
you talk about Aladdin in the scene,
Yeah.
and you saw my post about this, but I think it's interesting because in the film, it's almost you kind of have to like I maybe do some gymnastics with it, but it's almost like the rules against what you can wish for in Aladdin are utilized in this movie, all of them, which is that you can't wish for someone to love you, obviously. You can't
Can't wish
bring
for more
someone
wishes.
you can't wish for more wishes, which he
Right.
tries to find a workaround
Yeah.
for at the end, and it doesn't work. And then you also can't wish to bring someone back from the dead, which is sort of what
Mhm.
Nikki's doing with Sandy, like constantly
Yeah.
bringing Sandy up and bringing her back. And so I think that's interesting. And I just wondered if there was more motivation behind referencing
Mhm.
Aladdin beyond the fact that it's just a movie about wishes, or if there was, if that
Mhm.
was thought about at all.
I'd love to say yes, but the truth is like it's more of an Easter egg type thing, sort of like the Barker's Pub, because it's so early in the film and you still have room to sort of like play around and be silly. Because as the film goes on, the funnel gets narrower and narrower of like we want to trim the fat where there's no like we're headed toward this final escalation. But in the beginning, the pyramid's wide and you have some room to play around. And so the trivia bar is sort of playing around. They're joking about, every line has a purpose. Nothing's a throwaway. But the joke, joking about what drink he likes and that sort of thing. And then the Barker Pub itself is sort of an Easter egg. That's a joke for the That's a Bad Idea fans because who would notice that Curry's not really in the movie except for the voice later. And for the trivia, it was just like, well, if we're going to have a trivia DJ say something, it'd be cool if the trivia questions were about wishes and genies and stuff. And
Right,
that's about as far as it really went. And
right.
Curry came up with two or three different lines for me to read, different alts. And the Aladdin one is one that ended up in there. But the funny thing about that too is, I can't hear it like in my local theater. Like when I was listening to it on Dolby Sound, I could hear my voice very clearly, and I was like, "I have made it. I am an actor." And then here in my theater, it's just wah, 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 wah.
It did take me like a few different watches at a few different theaters to try to catch exactly what you were saying in that scene, but I did catch it, and as soon as I caught it, I was like, "Oh, that's interesting." And then, of course, I just what I like to say is I'm like the biggest overthinker like you'll ever meet, but that's
Yeah,
movies reward that, and so
yeah,
that's why I love
yeah.
analyzing film.
Dude, you're amazing. This is why I wanted to connect with you because you're the type of person I'd want on my team for future projects, for letting you do a pass on the script and make sure that I'm not accidentally saying or doing something in here that I don't intend. Also, like making sure that I'm being sensitive to cultural issues, and um, I think you'd be perfect at that. So
Thank you.
I'm gonna be calling you up.
I mean, you're welcome to hit me up anytime, man. It I want to ask you about your monologue that you wrote for the movie, the Hansel and Gretel monologue. Great scene. How
Thank you.
many versions of that did you do? And did you and Curry mutually decide that that was going to be about Hansel and Gretel, or was that all you?
One version.
Just one.
One
Okay.
version. Yeah. Um, to be honest, I don't remember. I don't because it was a long time ago. It was like, I mean, that was from right when he was actively writing the first draft, and he got to that part in the script, and his thought was that he wanted Nikki's voice as a writer to be different than the voice on the page, and so that's why he asked me to do it. And I've been thinking about that a lot lately because, it's a big deal now, but I can't really remember if he said, make it about Hansel and Gretel, or if he just said, make it as creepy and uncomfortable as possible. I know that what I pulled from was sort of this, I wanted it to be dreamlike, where, how you have a dream in your subconscious against your will, just sort of pulling a little bit here, maybe it's a cheeseburger pops up in your dream because that's what you had for lunch. And then, you're feeling resentful because you were mad at your sister 10 years ago. And for whatever reason that popped in your head recently, like it's just pulling like these little fragments. And I wanted the entity to be pulling from Nikki's subconscious, and part of it is what would manifest is the story that she's being terrorized, she's being assaulted, she's being everything that her own autonomy is being taken from her, but also this idea of seeing Bear as a brother figure, that would play into the Hansel and Gretel part of it. Also, the forbidden part of what's going on, and just how wrong it feels. As there's nothing that culturally or that would be more wrong than that sort of taboo subject. So, just pulling from that, that's that's where I landed. Now, that whether Curry and I talked about that together or he just gave me that assignment, I can't really remember because it's just been there for so long. And of all the things that changed in the script, that's one of the things that never changed.
Yeah. I mean, it's really amazing. And I think that's super interesting, the dream thing. I never thought of it that way because I was actually going to ask whether you think that, Nikki herself wrote that and then it was just the wish Nikki or whatever you'd like to call it reading it.
Mm-hmm.
Or if it's a combination of the two. It sounds like it's more of a combination of the two because it's like pulling from Nikki's subconscious, but it's writing it in a way that's kind of creepy and uncomfortable. And then I kind
Right.
of liken it to later in the movie when she has that like almost poetic but very dark monologue about if you leave, I'm gonna feel cold in the bed. You know what I'm talking about? And
Yeah.
so to me, I interpreted it as, Nikki's writer brain still exists in that body. Her
Right.
her subconscious as a storyteller and someone who could conjure up those kinds of like well articulated kind of thoughts, but in a darker way because it's, this thing has taken over her. I
Yeah.
think people did like my idea was that it was never like you said a malicious like or demonic thing that was like the One Wish Willow is like a trickster and it like pulls like a demon to put
Mm-hmm.
into Nikki and that's what happens. I just
Yeah.
don't feel like it having a separate agenda works in the way I interpret it. I feel like it has to be something that's kind of like, okay, you wish for Nikki to love you, so now we have to, in order for that to happen, we have to rob Nikki of control of whether that happens or not. So we got to separate her agency, her autonomy is suppressed, it's gone, and then we have to rewire what's left to make that work. So it kind of creates this new Nikki that's only mission is that.
Right.
That's how I view
Everything's,
it.
yeah, that's right. Everything's in service of the wish. So you
That's how
better
I
have a
view
good
it. Yeah.
wish. If your wish was that, I mean, you could take any wish and you could think of a bad scenario, but
Hmm.
I just want to believe that if you're smart enough and you word it properly, you could come up with a wish, but it has to be a selfless wish as well. And, anytime you're wishing for something to benefit you, it's going to come at the expense of someone else.
Hmm.
Inversely, if your wish is just to grant peace and happiness and love for everyone else, it could then come at the expense of you. So
Right.
I do believe there is a middle ground somewhere in there. I don't know what it is yet. If we go down that road one day, I hope to explore it with Curry. But I think it's possible for sure.
And that's exactly what I think I mean when I say emotional truth, because to me, the One Wish Willow is it kind of reflects how we have one life and we have to be wise with how we use it. It's like you could live life selfishly. You could be Ian and want money more than you want to help someone who needs help, like he's being told needs help.
Hmm.
Um, you could be like Bear, where it's like you want affection and validation more than you want to, you know, earn love and work on yourself. And like there's just so many different ways that I mean, you put it really well there that there's kind of probably a balance because the way I see it is that Bear, he's in a really bad place at the beginning of the movie and he kind of is tunnel visioned on Nikki because of that. And
Yeah.
there are, I think, people out there that are, a tragedy like your cat and your grandmother dying, really in close succession together. That kind of weight could hit somebody and just whatever existing issues they had just they become, I guess, spiraled into something much worse. And that's kind of what we see happen with him is he just kind of continuously believes that he needs Nikki's affection to essentially to live. In my
Right.
view, it's like that's all he has left, and that's I think why he looks up at the clock and it's a cat.
Yeah.
And he's like, tonight's the night. And I think about the line Ian says where he says, all you've got is time. And the cat clock is also red, like the willow. It's the color scheme of the One Wish Willow, which becomes Nikki's color afterwards. So
Right.
I'm wondering if you have, I guess, any thoughts. I know you have a background in psychology as well, to, I guess, what the theme of time means to the movie.
Yeah, well, the first scene was shot and added later for
Right.
several reasons, and by that point, all the themes were very clear, and so it was kind of easy to. It was really fortunate to be able to shoot the first scene last, so that you could sort of tie it all together at the beginning. And, it all connects. Uh, but yeah, no, it is. You hit it exactly, and a lot of people miss that. That having one wish is just like having one life, and the life is a consequences of the choices that you make. Basically, that's what it comes down to. The personal relationships we have with each other, the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's all a consequence in some way of a choice that we made, and so there is that parallel there. And but the set design, with the clock, that was just like really cool and creepy, and the color schemes, and the red versus the green. Again, it just goes back to very competent departments having taking Curry's vision, putting their ideas to it, getting that signed off on, and then being consistent all the way through with it, and it works.
It is really consistent. I think that helps a lot with trying to find these connections because if Nikki is red and Bear is green, and then when she's on the porch, she says, "Oh, I started liking you at Christmas," and those are the Christmas colors, red and green. So that's kind of another thing that I've been thinking about too.
Yeah.
I got to make a video on the colors. I got to make I want to make one about Sarah and their, Sarah and Nikki versus Ian and Bear.
Yeah.
There's just so many. I was watching Backrooms last night, Kane
Okay, good.
Parsons
I'm going to watch
Backrooms.
it tomorrow.
And I joked with my friends, and I was like, exploring the back rooms is kind of like rewatching Obsession and making posts about it because it just keeps going on and on. There's so many different ways you could do
That's
it.
funny.
It's
That's a
my
good point.
favorite. Yeah, it's my
Yeah.
favorite kind of movie for that reason. Um, and I gotta ask what your favorite scene is in the movie.
Well, it is the party scene. I think that is sort of like the point of no return, because now publicly, she's the entity is willing to cross some lines. Before, everything's sort of like hidden a little bit, as far as like what she's doing is mostly in front of Bear. But at that party, when she gets aggressive with, you know, everyone will die before they know the love. It's like, okay, this thing's almost like a child, this entity. It wants what it wants. There's been programmed to want it so badly, like it's going to do whatever it can to get it. And even in this setting, it's like willing to do anything. And I love Indy's. One of my favorite parts of the movie that I really don't see a lot of people talking about is when she puckers up. She goes
Yes,
for her knees, like,
incredible.
and this is Curry and Taylor's uncanny valley, where you don't even see her head. She's like in the foreground, and she goes around. Then her body's cut off, and then once Sarah's out of the way, she slowly lowers and she puckers up. But the part that I think is so beautiful is when they kiss, and she just, the face that she makes, where she's just like, oh, like you just see the ecstasy, the euphoria.
Yes.
When he kissed me on the lips in front of all these people, it's just like, it's just so wonderful.
Yeah, no, that is a fantastic moment.
Yeah, he
I
nails it.
there's an expression she makes in that scene that I love right after she hits herself with the bottle when she's bleeding, and she kind of goes back into wish Nikki mode, and she's looking around, and she like it's very brief before it cuts to another shot, but she like opens her mouth and is like, "What did
Yeah,
I do?" Like there's just that
yeah.
face, and
That
it's
was
so
like Nikki
uncanny.
and the entity going back and forth a little bit, and then it settles on the entity.
Yeah.
And the same thing happens in the final scene that I think a lot of people miss is when she hits the bottle on her head, and she's going toward Bear, and she's sort of wobbling, and she says, "What did I do? Or why did I do that?" Or like I can't remember what her line is, but that is also like for a second Nikki popping up and then going back away.
You speaking about the final scene in the house, like when
Mhm.
Ian's knocking on the door?
Yeah, right. Yeah, Ian's knocking on the door. She has the gun, and she has hit the brick on the head,
Yeah.
and she's wobbling. And then as she's sort of like losing her consciousness and trying to stay alert,
I think she
she
says like
says something. I can't
she
remember what it is.
yeah, she like screams stop, I
Yeah,
think. Yeah.
yeah. I believe. Well, the intent was this battle of Nikki trying to come forward, but she can't.
Yeah. One of my favorite lines from that scene as well is when she's laying with him and she says, "Oh, I knew you loved me. You owe me that."
Mm.
Like there's an interesting thing in the script where uh it feels like Nikki after the wish kind of understands the One Wish Willow a little bit more than she lets on.
Mm.
Where it's like it's weird because she understands that it was wished upon her, but she's like, this is my purpose and this is why, but she also can't argue with it. So it's like like you were saying, it's like she's a victim too. She's kind of having to, has this mission that maybe she can't really explain why she loves Bear. She just
Mm.
does. And so it's like this is just all I feel and all I know how to do. And so it becomes interesting when, especially in the earlier drafts of the script, when she literally asks, like, what's a one wish willow? And so I'm wondering when, you guys were talking about that, was there any discussion about, like, how much should Nikki be self-aware of
Mm.
the wish willow itself? Because in the film, you have lines like, you wanted this, you wished for this.
Mm.
You could also interpret that he had just said in the previous scene, this is all I've ever wanted. And then, so her saying you wanted this, you wished for this, it's almost like a little nod to the audience of like when she uses the word wish, it
Mm.
doesn't mean like I know it's a literal wish. It kind of means like you wanted this, but then when she says wish, it cuts deeper for the audience and for Bear. But I
Mm.
think given that I read the earlier script, I think maybe it is intended as she knows a little bit more.
No, my interpretation, and I think Curry's is too, is that she always knows. She always knows who she, what she is, what her, when I say her, I mean the entity, what the
Right.
entity is, what the entity is meant to do, and owns it, wants it. It's not like against her, its will. Like it has a job to do. It wants to do this job. But I think it always knows why it's there. And in the beginning, it tries to hide it from Bear, like playing along with Bear in this sort of like deniability of like, okay, we're all going to pretend like this is normal and you're really Nikki and I'm really Bear, and it's playing along. But as it goes along, more and more things start to slip.
Yeah.
It's like the scene where it says, I can be Nikki, I can be whoever you want me to be. Like just
Yeah.
love me.
Yeah, it's super interesting because she shows a resentment for the truth as well in the way that she's like, no, 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 don't do that. Don't bring that up. I thought we
Right,
were having a nice date. I
right,
thought we were,
right. So that's always there, and I think at that point people are just like, oh, she's just this is just crazy girlfriend stuff. But it's not. It's the entity already making it clear, like we can do this the easy way or the hard way. We can all pretend like everything's great, but if you're gonna force me to speak the truth, then we have to acknowledge that I am this thing, and
right,
and I'm still gonna love you, and I just want you to love me back.
right. And it's so interesting because it's like the entity is challenging Bear at every turn. There is a challenge. Are you going to reject the truth? Like this isn't really Nikki, or does that matter? You
Right.
know, is this something you're willing to accept to have what you wish for? You
Mhm.
know, and I feel like at every turn, in one way or another, he fails that
Yeah.
test. It's like he
It's,
always, whether it's cowardice,
yeah.
whether it's ego, or whatever, he just completely succumbs to it. Like
Yeah.
it's like, well, why does it matter? And he's like, doesn't matter to me. And
Yeah. Oh,
you
that's a
know,
devastating scene.
oh
What fun
yeah,
is that? Yeah.
that's definitely the I think for most people that's the turning point. And I think
Yeah.
at the very least that should be the turning
Well, it
point.
was a lot worse, as you read in that
Hmm.
early draft. And I always had a big problem.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Curry and I had a lot of conversations about it, and he agreed. But again, he wanted to push things as far as he could and then pull back. Because if you start, I mean, you can never write scared. You can never, you have to like really be brave. And his one of the reasons why Curry works so well is in his mind, it's easier to pull back than to add. So, let's make this as extreme and uncomfortable as possible. And if it's too much, we'll pull back. But I was constantly saying, I don't think you can go there. Like this is too much. It's simulating essay in a way that is like is there a way that we can get it without it being like thrown in our face so much, which is like one of the like in the draft that's out now where she like comes to and is like, "What's going on?" And then, but he keeps going.
Yeah.
Where what Curry landed on, which I think is 100% the right choice, which is just her being deadpan, checked out, and lying there in such a way that it's very clear that what's going on, rather than the snapping to.
Right.
You know?
And you
And I
still
can't
have
remember, I don't remember if he just took that part and added it to the beginning, when they first go to his house. I'm thinking he did, because we never would have had that in there twice, because you never want to repeat a beat in a movie. So the beat where they're making out and she like comes to. So I think he just took it from there, moved it there, and it works great like that.
absolutely. And I love that beat where she jumps at the when they're kissing at the beginning because I've said this a couple times, it's a jump scare for her. So
Mm.
as the audience, when you jolt at that, loud noise that plays and she jumps back and
Mhm.
falls off the bed, when you're jolted, you're in a way empathizing with Nikki because she experienced that moment of like for Bear it was like a slow build
Right.
up to the moment, but she experienced the like what is going on, right? That
Mhm.
that feeling of kind of waking up from the moment. And I think that is really cool and creative because the way horror exists in this movie. It's like she, her perspective, I view it as her perspective is the horror and Bear's perspective is more the comedy where I kind of, in a lot of scenes feel like they're funny when Bear is like cowering away and
Mhm.
kind of what one shot I find absolutely hilarious is when he's leaning up in bed and he can't find where she is and after
Mm.
after she's in the corner and then he like tries to go back to sleep
Yeah.
and then she screams, "Why don't you love me?" And he looks, the camera whips around. It's like,
Yeah.
where is she? I
Yeah.
just find that expression that Michael has when he's like sitting up in bed,
Yeah.
he's like, "Nikki, where are you?" I find that hilarious.
Michael Johnson is so good, and I think in the years as they go by, people will appreciate his performance more and more. I think right now it's people are so mad at Bear for being such a coward and putting Nikki through this, and like he is the clear villain of the story. But as time goes on and people can pull back a little bit and revisit it, I think they'll see like that none of that was by accident. Michael Johnston like embodied this. He's not like that in real life. Like he's a very cool, suave, confident guy. Like he is acting his ass off in this
Yeah.
movie.
Oh yeah, he's
He's so
amazing.
talented.
And I do think that's true that people will over time appreciate him more because yeah, like you said, Bear is an easy character to hate and over time, we'll reevaluate and
Mhm.
we'll be a little more removed from the initial experience of
Yes.
like,
Well,
oh,
and then when they see him in more stuff and see like
of course,
that
yeah.
he's not there, that so yeah, I'm just so happy for all of them. Indy was an amazing find, and I hope that I mean, she is getting all the credit she deserves, but I hope that the award season she'll still be in the conversation. And I mean, I've said this before that I think that this movie will hold up as a generational movie. At least that's my hope. And that when the people who are experiencing this, that this is their movie, it's in their sweet spot. The people in their mid 20s to mid 30s, as they get older. And another generation of people who love movies comes along, and they're like, "Have you seen Obsession?" They're like, "Oh, I've been meaning to see it. I haven't seen it." You know what I mean? When these people finally, the new generation sees it, I think their reaction is going to be, how did they get these four actors in this movie? Because by
Right.
then, I think Indy and Cooper and Megan and Michael would be megastars. And it'll be like one of those like movies where you're like, wow, they were all in this movie together. Like, I didn't know that. That's so cool. This is
That's
great.
a great point. I do think that's true. I think we're witnessing a bit of I guess you could call it a movement in film history. Like we're experiencing it right now with a lot of people who grew up with the internet. And
Mhm.
what I appreciate so much about what Curry did with this movie, is that his sensibilities, his voice that he found, through the films he's been making online, uh, is kind of translated to the screen authentically. Like it doesn't feel like, oh, this is a movie now. This plays by different rules. We have to make this a certain way. It feels like the scenes between Bear and Ian that are funny, like the opening scene, they play like a that's a bad idea sketch
Hmm.
sometimes. They have that rhythm and that sharpness to it. And then, the look of the film too.
It plays so authentically to what people have who follow Curry and Cooper, what they've seen all these years.
Right.
I agree 100%. And people who weren't exposed to that, they got a whole other cinematic experience. They just, saw it, but they didn't have all that collectively they were bringing to the film as viewers.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I mean, there were tons of people who love That's a Bad Idea and wanted to see this movie for that reason, So, this was not an overnight success. I mean, they've been building up their people who trust them and like them for years.
Yeah. I mean it's an incredible crew of people, and I think that we're seeing more and more like the things that are scary to this generation, or my generation, and the things that are funny to my generation that we kind of grew up with are
Mhm.
being seen like in this bigger way on the screen. And it is that just that authentic kind of translation from, the internet stuff to the big screen that
Yeah.
I think is what makes this movie so exciting for so many people. It's like, oh wow, that, this person was scared by a lot of the stuff I saw that was scary online growing up, or, this person kind of has that sense of humor that you see on, sketches like Curry and Cooper make. And I think the same is true for like Kane's movie, Backrooms, to see that stuff translated authentically as well, that kind of liminal space, creepy pasta kind of horror that,
Yeah.
is so popular online. And so I really do think we're going to look back on, I think Obsession will be a super significant one in this collection of kind of, people who grew up doing stuff online and are passionate about filmmaking and had that outlet to translate their voices to the screen. And I think that's
Yeah.
what we're seeing, especially with horror.
Yeah. And this isn't new. Like every generation that comes along, they're bringing something that's unique to them. Like with my generation, it was the mumblecore movement to be able to shoot with a camcorder and not worry about edits so much and just like a lot of ad lib. Uh, you know, that was sort of our thing. And every generation has something that they're bringing. That your generation is bringing with it this communal trauma of growing up in a time with COVID. Probably a little younger than you, but still in your group, your cohorts. Growing up, going to school during a COVID era, and just the fear that having this fear in your life of something that previous generations didn't have. Also, the trauma of carrying around a phone all the time and having to have your own personality on display, but also carry these other personas depending on who you're talking to and what group chat you're in, and keeping all these streaks and stuff going. The pressure of constantly performing. Uh, that's unique to you guys. So, and that is now going to start showing up in art
Yeah.
because you guys are into adulthood. And Curry and I wrote a script together that he's going to direct someday. And the beauty of it to me, I mean, it's a dream come true to do a project with him, start to finish, and write it together. But the beauty of it is like it has some of my experience and sensibilities with put together with his and his Gen Z voice and his comedic timing. And so it sort of takes both of us and sort of puts us together. And I just think it's really awesome. So I can't wait for the world
I
to see
can't wait to see it.
it.
Yeah. I think
He's a little busy, so I'm way down on the slate.
yeah. I do think that is really, yeah, you hit it exactly, is that there is unique traumas, unique experiences that are getting translated into art, from, having that's the thing in Obsession too, like the theme of, dishonesty, lack of communication, the fear of being cringe or being
Mhm.
seen, being vulnerable. And
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
being controlled, like, government control and all these things. Yeah.
yeah, so all of that stuff is really there, and
Yeah.
it's
And for
all
the
part of
millennials,
why.
it was being a child after 9/11. and this sort of fear of, oh, we're vulnerable, that something bad can happen to me, where when I was coming up, there was I was after this true threat of nuclear war. I grew up in a time of peace where like everything's great, there's no problems. At least that's how I remember it. So yeah, and it speaks. It's as people come into adulthood, that becomes the most relevant art. That's where we're at now, and I think it's awesome. I love it. I'm glad that Curry's a part of it, and like I said, I'm going to go watch Backrooms. I hope they both make a killing this weekend. It's not a
Yeah.
competition. It's a great time to be a horror fan.
It's a incredible time to be a horror fan. And another question for you, what is the biggest thing, I guess, on this topic? What is the biggest thing that you think you've learned from how successful Obsession has been so far?
Mm.
Whether it be as a writer or
Uh-huh.
really anything in
Yeah.
life.
Well, I say the thing I've learned the most through all this experience is Curry's taught me to be bold, be brave, and to put myself out there. Um, he knows how important it is for me to have a career as a screenwriter and to do it independently of him. So we're both creating our own lanes where we still collaborate and work together, but we're our own creatives. And for me, like doing the putting myself out there on social media, um, doing the screenplay lab, breaking down scripts and stuff, it's scary. Like, no, I have a fear of like not being liked, being judged, being made fun of, like most people do. But for me, it is something that has held me back, would hold me back. But Curry has taught me both through conversations we've had, but mostly just by example, that if you want to be part of the conversation, if you want to have a shot, you have to put yourself out there and you just have to get over yourself. Like he says, go make a shitty film, then go make another shitty film, then go make another one. Because if you're waiting for this perfect film and just enter the world and be perfect, you'll never do it. It'll never happen. So that's the main thing that I've learned through the process. But what I've learned from the movie specifically, the real question you asked me is how powerful word of mouth is. Like Focus did an excellent job marketing this movie, and the result of that was the first week at the box office, which for a small budget movie was remarkable. But what's happened since then has all been word of mouth. It's people going to see the movie, then going back to work and telling their coworker, "You've got to go see this movie," or going online and saying, "You have to see this movie." And then they go see it. It's like a contagion. Then they go see it, go tell two people, and then they go see it, go tell two people, and the numbers are just incredible.
Yeah.
So, you know, I learned that that still exists. Like I've seen that in my lifetime in other ways, but it felt like that was broken and that would never happen again. But now I see that it can happen. It's very possible.
I actually was just in the drive-through of getting coffee the other day, and I know all the baristas at the at the coffee place that I go to nearby, and they were like, "What are you doing today?" And I was like, "I'm going to the movies." And their first question was, "Oh, are you seeing Obsession? Have you seen that movie Obsession?" And I love when I
Well,
get asked that. Also, I went to the movies to see Passenger like the other night, and the guy at the when I was getting popcorn, he was like, "Are you watching Obsession?" And both of these conversations, I got to respond. I love being able to do this because people kind of give me funny looks and it's funny. But I was like, "Yeah, I've seen Obsession 8 times already,"
have you really
because
seen it eight
I've
times?
seen it 8 times.
Oh
Yeah.
my God, that's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I saw it once at Fantastic Fest and once at Overlook Film Festival, but then when it came out last Thursday, I saw it Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday.
Wow. No wonder you're an encyclopedia. Yeah,
Well,
that's
yeah, that's kind of the thing. Like I when I really am interested in breaking down a movie, I have to go watch it,
yeah,
at least like 3 times
yeah,
to really try to crack, what's behind it. And the fact that it allows these kinds of connections to be made where we can kind of chop it up and talk
yeah,
about it, and it's super cool. Like this
yeah.
is my favorite thing in the world is just trying to find meaning in everything together
Yeah,
and being
that's
so curious about
that's right.
movies.
And just having that human connection, that's what it's all about, is having a human connection.
Yeah.
Funny story, you're talking about people asking about the movie. There's a video online of Curry when he went to the AMC in Burbank, and somebody pulled out their phone and they were like, as a joke, "Hey, what movie are you going to see?" And Curry, without missing a beat, was like, "Top Gun Maverick."
I saw that video. It's hilarious. He's so
It's so
naturally
funny.
funny. I think that's why the phone call scene in Obsession is so funny and but
Mhm.
also eerie. I just that was a post I made yesterday. I was like that whole scene is just Curry is so funny on that phone
Yes,
call.
that is really a bone tossing a bone to the that's a bad idea people. The way he delivers the line, it really is just sort of like one of his characters on That's a Bad Idea. And people who know
Absolutely.
that are like, oh, I can hear it,
Yeah. Yeah, there were even people when the trailer came out because that was the trailer. They were like, "That sounds like the guy from That's a Bad Idea. Is that him?" And it's like,
and
"Yes."
didn't know that he was the director. Yeah,
No.
it's
What do
funny.
you have a favorite sketch they've made on That's a Bad Idea?
Well, I have lots. I always when I get asked that question, I always say it's the one that I'm in. I'm in a couple, but like
Oh, okay.
I star in one of them, where it's Curry and Cooper who they're trying to get a family phone plan, and they're trying to recruit me to be their dad, and I'm out checking the mail, and I'm like, I'm not your dad. They just keep going and on like that. I'm their dad.
I need to
Riley
watch. I haven't
too.
seen
It's
that.
pretty funny. They should look it up. It's
Yeah.
pretty funny. And then, but really, I mean, like if I was just going to meet someone off the street and I was like, "Hey, my son's got this channel. You should check it out." The one I would probably pull up is the beach one where Cooper's trying to tell Curry that he wants him to come to the beach.
Yeah, I actually haven't seen that one either.
Oh,
I need
it's a
to watch it.
classic.
Yeah.
It's a classic.
My favorite one is the one with the where Cooper's the waiter and Curry leaves the negative tip.
Yeah,
That's my favorite one.
that one's very popular.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
There's a new one that's making the rounds. It's been out for like 3 years now, or maybe 2.5. That has Michael Johnston in it and Howie Mandel, where it's like Curry's a bouncer at a club, and Cooper. I wouldn't spoil it for you, but if you look for that one, it's really funny because when Michael was just coming into the unit, he had already been cast as Bear, but filming hadn't started yet, and like they were doing like prep and all that, and it was time to do a sketch. They just recruited him to come be in the sketch,
that's
and
awesome.
and now people are finding it. They're like, "Hey, that's the guy in Obsession."
Yeah, I gotta
Uh,
I gotta catch that for sure.
yeah, and Howie Mandel's in it because Howie Mandel loved Curry and Cooper sketches from way back and was always like, "I gotta be in one. I gotta be in one."
Yeah. Have you formed any relationships through Obsession that you're excited to take into future projects? Any people you're gonna definitely call up?
Yeah, you're gonna be reading
Oh,
my
I
script.
appreciate it.
uh, yeah, well, yeah. I mean, it's what's happened to me is a miracle. I mean, it is seismic, this thing, and it's just really even gotten to me. And I've been working really hard for 3 years to build myself up as a screenwriter, and I've had some successes. I've had a project that's out on the town that I think got really close, and then it pulled away, and I think now people are taking another look at it. But on top of that, what's happened, I think, because Curry has been on press talking about that I had an impact on the script, that I helped him with it, that I wrote some of the monologues, and so because of that, people are looking me up to say, who is this guy? And some of the producers in town have through that discovered my screenplay breakdowns, watched videos, and been like, okay, this guy actually might know what he's talking about. Let's call him up and schedule a meeting. And so I've had lots of meetings with people and made some really beautiful connections. And whether something comes from it or not, it was just nice to like meet those people. Uh, and so yeah, I think that things are really happening. This thing is just the train is so fast with this, and it's so big. I'm just so grateful and thankful, and Curry is too, and that's been important.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be honest, I'm grateful for it too. 'Cause like the amount of people I've been able to discuss the film with, I mean yourself included, has been incredible. Like that I it's it's one of those movies where it just feels like everyone wants to just break it down. And I'm like, finally there's this is like exactly what I love to do, and everybody's doing it, and I love the movie, and I just
Yeah,
it's
it's so cool, man.
it's incredible, you know. It feels like there's just a mutual passion going around for it that is just it's infectious.
Yeah,
And
I was at the grocery store the other day in Publix, and I had on my Obsession shirt, and the manager saw me, and he walked up, and he was like, "Have you seen the movie?" And I told him Curry was my son, and he swiped his badge, and I got a $10 discount on my groceries.
there
The
you go.
Obsession discount, he called it. I didn't even know that was a thing. I didn't know you could do that. I felt like I was stealing.
Yeah, the One Wish Willow discount.
Yeah, so that
Oh
was
my
really cool.
gosh.
It is like in culture right now, which is like there's just you can never we never could have even fantasized that it would be like that.
Yeah, I don't want to take up too much of your time. We've been talking for about an hour 20,
Yeah, I
um,
do probably need to hop.
but it's been great chopping it up with you
Yeah,
and
man, I
talking about
appreciate it.
the
I
movie.
knew, and this is like of all the podcasts I've done, a lot of them are talking to me about screenwriting, which I love to talk about. They're talking about Curry and Obsession, but I felt like for you and I, most of it was like really talking about the themes of the movie and the intricacies of it. And that was a different experience. So that was cool.
Oh, I'm glad. I'm glad you enjoyed it because I really that is like my favorite stuff. Like I know I've said it a couple times, but that is
Yeah,
just my favorite stuff is to just find meaning and discuss characters and
yeah.
everything. And I knew, yeah, I knew it would be a blast, and it was. So thank you so much for
Well,
reaching out.
oh, no problem, man. Thanks for having me.
And I'm a fan of the Screenplay Lab. I've been watching that stuff. So
Okay,
I will
cool.
definitely, when I put this up, I will definitely leave the links for all of your stuff, and everybody should check out the Screenplay Lab
Yeah,
and everything that you
cool.
do. Tell Curry I said hello.
Yeah, I will. I'm sure he'll see this and I'll tell him about it for sure.
All right,
Yeah. And
cool.
then I'm going to send you a script.
Okay, I mean, yeah, yeah, hit
I
me
got to
up
get you
any
started on the clock. I got to get you on the clock.
hit me up anytime. Anytime, shoot me a message. I'm happy to chat or give some feedback if you'd like. So yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, great to meet you and talk to you, Jeff.
You too, Peyton. Take
Yeah,
care.
yeah. Take care. Have a good one.